Long before modern supermarkets, glossy produce aisles, and industrial-scale farming changed the way humanity grows food, medieval fields were alive with a diversity that now feels almost unimaginable. Farming was not driven by profit margins, export demands, or cosmetic perfection. It was guided by survival, local knowledge, and deep observation of nature. Every vegetable grown had a purpose beyond profit. They fed families, healed sickness, survived winters, and returned nutrients to the land. In this world, diversity was not a luxury, it was survival. Medieval landscapes were quieter and slower. Fields were not endless monocultures but patchworks of small plots, hedges, kitchen gardens, and shared lands. Farmers watched the sky, read the soil with their hands, and passed knowledge through memory rather than manuals. The rhythm of planting and harvest followed the seasons, the rain, the frost, and even the phases of the moon. Every choice had consequences that extended beyond the individual family to the community as a whole. Crops that thrived were treasured. Those that failed were quietly abandoned. This constant selection created vegetables uniquely adapted to their environment. Among these vegetables was skirret, a sweet root vegetable that grew in clusters, unlike the modern carrot. Skirret thrived in damp soils and cold climates, providing reliable sustenance through harsh winters. It could be boiled, roasted, mashed, or added to stews, offering energy and sweetness when sugar was rare. Its irregular shape made it unsuitable for mechanized harvesting today, yet its resilience and adaptability are precisely what modern agriculture now desperately needs. Another key vegetable was good King Henry, a leafy green that often grew wild along roadsides and village edges. It required minimal care and returned year after year. Rich in vitamins and minerals, it supplemented diets, and provided a reliable source of greens throughout the year. Unlike today's market-driven crops, its value was measured not by appearance but by endurance and nutrition. Parsnips were also essential in medieval diets. They served as a natural sweetener and were versatile in preparation. Roasted, mashed, or fermented, they provided sustenance and energy. Their diversity and hardiness made them invaluable, though modern farming has largely narrowed the varieties for uniformity and speed. The heirloom parsnips of medieval Europe were not only flavorful, but also deeply committed to local soil and climate, illustrating the natural intelligence embedded in these plants. Sea kale, harvested along coastal regions, added another layer to this rich agricultural tapestry. It thrived in salty soils where other crops would fail, and was appreciated for its tender shoots and unique flavor. As inland farming expanded and standardized crops took over, sea kale faded into obscurity. Today its salt tolerance is highly relevant, especially as rising salinity threatens farmland worldwide. Cabbages, rampions, leeks, peas, salsify, charred onions, turnips, and herbs like lovage all played integral roles in the medieval diet. Each was selected for survival resilience and compatibility with the surrounding ecosystem rather than appearance or yield alone. Together, these plants formed a system that balanced soil, water, nutrition, and human sustenance. Their disappearance in modern times represents not just a loss of food variety, but also a loss of knowledge, adaptation, and ecological harmony. These forgotten vegetables remind us that food once evolved in harmony with nature, not against it. Their genetic diversity, hardness, and ecological functions hold lessons for today's struggling agricultural systems. By studying and reintroducing these crops, modern farmers can learn how to create more resilient, adaptive, and sustainable food systems. The wisdom of medieval agriculture offers solutions to contemporary problems, illustrating that sometimes, looking backward can help us move forward. One of the most vital leafy greens in medieval Europe was good King Henry, known for its remarkable ability to thrive with minimal care. Unlike modern vegetables bred for visual perfection, this plant was valued for its resilience and the abundance it provided over the seasons. It grew along roadsides, hedgerows, and garden edges, returning year after year with little human intervention. Families harvested its leaves for soups, stews, and pottages, relying on it as a staple food that could endure when other crops failed. The enduring presence of good King Henry reflected the medieval understanding of sustainability. Farmers recognized that plants like this required no artificial fertilizers and could survive in diverse soil conditions. Its nutritional profile, rich in iron, calcium, and vitamins, made it an indispensable part of the diet, especially in regions where other vegetables struggled to grow. Unlike modern greens that demand constant attention and careful irrigation, good King Henry thrived under the natural rhythms of the seasons. Parsnips, another cornerstone of the medieval diet, complemented leafy greens by providing energy and natural sweetness during long winters. Before sugar was widely available, these root vegetables were crucial for flavoring dishes. They were versatile: boiled, roasted, mashed, or fermented, and could be stored for extended periods. The variety of parsnips cultivated in medieval times was remarkable, each adapted to local soils and climate, reflecting centuries of selective cultivation and observation. Modern agriculture, with its emphasis on uniformity and rapid growth, has lost much of this diversity. But the resilience and nutritional benefits of medieval varieties remain unmatched. The relationship between medieval vegetables and the soil was deeply symbiotic. Plants like parsnips and good King Henry not only drew nutrients from the earth, but also contributed to its fertility. Their roots aerated the soil, allowed water to penetrate deeper, and supported beneficial microorganisms. These processes improved soil structure, reduced erosion, and enhanced the overall health of the land. In this way, the medieval garden functioned as an ecosystem, with each plant playing a role in maintaining balance and sustainability. Sea kale, found along coastal areas, added another layer of adaptability to the medieval vegetable repertoire. Its tolerance to salty and sandies made it indispensable in regions where other crops failed. The plant's thick, tender shoots provided nourishment, while its ability to flourish in challenged conditions demonstrated a remarkable natural resilience. As inland agriculture expanded and trade made other vegetables available, sea kale became less common. Today, with increasing soil salinity affecting farmland worldwide, this forgotten vegetable could once again prove vital. Cabbages, rampions, and leeks each contributed to a complex system of crop rotation and soil care. Cabbages, in their many medieval forms, provided hearty nutrition and could withstand cold winters. Rampions thrived in poor soils with minimal care, and leeks offered both flavor and resilience. The cultivation of peas complemented these vegetables by enriching the soil with nitrogen, creating a naturally sustainable cycle of growth and harvest. Such interconnections illustrate the sophisticated ecological knowledge medieval farmers possessed. Even without modern scientific frameworks, the philosophy underlying medieval farming extended beyond mere survival. It encompassed observation, patience, and adaptation. Farmers selected crops not only for their immediate yield but for their long-term contribution to soil health, food security, and ecological stability. Perennial greens, self-seeding herbs, and deep-rooted vegetables formed a system that balanced productivity with sustainability. Modern agriculture, focused on immediate returns and visual appeal, often neglects these lessons. The dietary significance of good King Henry and other leafy greens also had social and cultural dimensions. Shared knowledge about which vegetables thrived in specific soils or survived particular weather conditions was passed down through generations. Communities relied on these plants collectively, ensuring that even in times of scarcity, food security was maintained. Vegetables that supported the soil or neighboring crops were appreciated not only for their nutritional value, but for their role in the wider agricultural ecosystem. As we consider the endurance of good King Henry and similar vegetables, it becomes evident that their disappearance from modern fields represents more than a loss of flavor or nutrition. It signifies a gap in ecological understanding. These plants embodied resilience, adaptability, and harmony with the environment. By studying and integrating them into modern agriculture, we can rediscover techniques and crops that offer sustainability, nutritional richness, and long-term resilience. Medieval vegetables were more than food. They were lessons etched into the soil, plants that taught patience, observation, and care. Good King Henry, parsnips, and other staples of the time remind us that agriculture once valued balance, diversity, and ecological intelligence. Their stories, if remembered and acted upon, could inform a new era of farming, one where vegetables are chosen not for uniformity or marketability, but for their capacity to endure, nourish, and sustain life across generations. Another essential component of medieval diets was the parsnip, a root vegetable that provided sweetness, sustenance, and adaptability long before sugar became commonplace. Parsnips thrived in poor soils and cold climates, their roots reaching deep to access nutrients and water unavailable to shallower plants. Unlike modern crops bred for uniformity and rapid growth, medieval parsnips came in diverse forms, each shaped by generations of observation and selection. Their sweetness developed naturally over months, made them a key ingredient in winter meals, providing energy and comfort when food was scarce. Parsnips were versatile. They could be boiled into thick, nourishing soups, roasted to caramelized perfection, or mashed into hearty side dishes. They were fermented for preservation, and even incorporated into early brewing methods, reflecting the creativity and necessity-driven culinary practices of the time. Families carefully saved seeds from the most successful plants, ensuring that each subsequent generation grew vegetables adapted to their specific soil, climate, and seasonal conditions. The relationship between parsnips and the soil was intimate and mutually beneficial. Their deep roots loosened compacted earth, creating channels for water and air to move freely. As roots decomposed, they enriched the soil, adding organic matter and promoting microbial diversity. This natural cultivation technique improved soil structure and fertility without external inputs, creating a sustainable system where vegetables supported the land that sustained them. Modern farming often seeks to mimic these effects mechanically, but the elegance of nature's own methods is evident in the success of medieval crops. Beyond parsnips, medieval gardens featured a range of other root vegetables, each with its ecological role. Salsify, sometimes called the oyster plant, grew long, deep roots that enriched soil and broke up hard pan layers. Skirret offered multiple clustered roots that fed families while simultaneously aerating the earth. Turnips provided rapid growth, soil coverage, and food for both humans and livestock. Each root vegetable contributed to a delicate balance between harvest and regeneration, illustrating an understanding of sustainable farming practices, long before modern science could describe them. Medieval cabbages were far different from the uniform, market-ready heads we see today. They came in a variety of shapes, sizes, and colors, each adapted to specific climates and soils. Some cabbages were tightly packed, able to withstand harsh winters and heavy frosts, while others had loose, leafy forms that thrived during milder seasons. Families selected the hardiest, most reliable plants each year, saving seeds that could endure local conditions. This careful selection ensured a supply of fresh greens through the cold months, a time when few other vegetables were available. The cultivation of cabbages illustrates the medieval understanding of resilience. Rather than demanding perfect soil or constant attention, these plants adapted to whatever the land provided. Their robust leaves resisted insects naturally, reducing the need for interventions, and their ability to store well allowed communities to survive food shortages. Modern agriculture often overlooks such traits in favor of yield and aesthetics, but medieval farmers recognized that survival depended on reliability above all else. Cabbages were not the only leafy vegetables to embody these principles. Spinach, chard, and Good King Henry complemented them, each with its own unique contribution to the diet and the soil. Perennial greens returned year after year, requiring minimal sowing and offering continuous harvests. Self-seeding plants filled in gaps, ensuring that the land was never left bare. This approach maintained soil cover, prevented erosion and supported biodiversity. Even within small garden plots, the nutritional value of medieval leafy vegetables was significant. Rich in vitamins, minerals and fiber, they were essential for maintaining health, especially during the lean winter months. These greens were used in soups, pottages and stews, often combined with root vegetables like parsnips or turnips. Their flavor and texture varied with the seasons, adding variety to the medieval palate and reflecting a diet closely aligned with local ecosystems. Crop rotation played a central role in sustaining medieval gardens. Legumes were planted alongside leafy vegetables to naturally replenish nitrogen in the soil. This symbiotic arrangement reduced the need for artificial fertilizers and strengthened the land for future harvests. The careful sequencing of crops ensured that the soil remained fertile, demonstrating an ecological intelligence that modern farming often overlooks. Leafy vegetables also had cultural and medicinal significance. They were believed to cleanse the body, provide energy, and support digestion. Harvesting and preparing these greens became ritualized acts within families and communities, linking people to the land and to the cycles of the seasons. The knowledge of which plants thrived where, and how best to cultivate them, was passed down orally from generation to generation, creating a living library of agricultural wisdom. Cabbages and other leafy vegetables further contributed to the resilience of medieval communities, by reducing dependency on imported, or expensive foods. In an era when trade was unpredictable and local resources were paramount, these vegetables offered both reliability and adaptability. They could be consumed fresh, stored through winter, or incorporated into preserved dishes, forming a backbone for sustenance that supported both nutrition and survival. The diversity inherent in these plants also mitigated risk. If one crop failed due to weather or pest invasion, others could fill the gap. This strategy ensured a continuous supply of food and contributed to the overall stability of the agricultural system. Modern monocultures, by contrast, increase vulnerability, highlighting the foresight embedded in medieval cultivation practices. Through the lens of cabbages, spinach and their leafy companions, we gain insight into a philosophy of farming that prioritized balance, resilience, and sustainability. These vegetables were not simply grown for immediate consumption. They were part of an intricate ecological network that supported soil health, community well-being, and long-term survival. By revisiting and learning from these forgotten crops, modern agriculture can find guidance for creating systems that are robust, nourishing, and deeply connected to the rhythms of the earth. Among the most remarkable features of medieval agriculture was the diversity and resilience of underground vegetables. Roots like salsify, skirret, and turnips provided not only nourishment, but also critical ecological functions. Salsify, often called the Worcester plant, extended deep into the soil, breaking compacted layers and enriching the earth with its decaying organic matter. This natural process improved drainage, promoted beneficial microbial life, and strengthened the soil for subsequent crops. Skirret with its clustered roots offered similar benefits, aerating the soil while simultaneously providing a sweet, energy-rich food source. Turnips, fast-growing and hardy, supplied sustenance for both people and livestock, while also covering bare soil and preventing erosion. These underground vegetables were chosen not for their appearance, but for their capacity to endure and support the land. Each root interacted with its environment, absorbing nutrients from deeper layers and returning them to the surface. This dynamic created a natural nutrient cycle, a living, breathing system where plants and soil coexisted in balance. Modern agriculture offers mechanical interventions to replicate these effects. Yet medieval farmers achieved them organically, guided by observation, experience, and patience. The seasonal rhythms of these vegetables were crucial to medieval survival. root vegetables were planted to align with the natural cycles of frost and rainfall, ensuring that harvests could withstand the unpredictable swings of weather. Cold hardy crops provided food when other vegetables failed, serving as reliable staples throughout the long winters. Their persistence was essential in a time without refrigeration, chemical preservatives, or modern storage methods. Families depended on these vegetables to sustain themselves during lean months, reflecting a deep understanding of nature's timing and generosity. Nutrition and utility were deeply intertwined in the selection of these plants. Salsify subtle oyster, like flavor-enriched stews and pottages, while turnips offered carbohydrates and fiber, and skirret delivered both sweetness and energy. These vegetables were versatile, easily stored, and incorporated into a variety of meals. Each plant was valued not just for its calories, but for its ability to endure, reproduce, and contribute to the overall resilience of the garden and the community. The ecological intelligence embedded in medieval underground vegetables extended beyond individual crops. These plants supported soil fertility through natural decomposition and rotation cycles. Legumes or leafy greens grown nearby replenished nitrogen, maintained moisture, and reduced pests. The careful planning of plant placement ensured that the garden was a living system, where each species complemented the others. This harmony minimized labor and external inputs, allowing communities to sustain themselves even in challenging conditions. Medicinal and cultural significance also played a role in the cultivation of these roots. Many were believed to promote vitality, offering energy, warmth, or restorative properties during periods of scarcity. Preparation techniques varied, reflecting culinary creativity and adaptability. Roasting, boiling, fermenting, and mashing allowed families to maximize the utility and flavor of every root. These practices reinforced the connection between human well-being and the environment, embedding knowledge that was passed orally through generations. Root vegetables also exemplified the medieval principle of redundancy and diversity. No single crop was relied upon exclusively. If one plant failed due to pests, disease, or weather, others filled the gap. This strategy reduced risk and ensured food security, a practice that modern monocultures often neglect. The genetic diversity of these vegetables, combined with their adaptability to different soils and climates, created a resilient agricultural network capable of withstanding environmental variability. Through salsify, skirret, and turnips, we glimpse the broader philosophy of medieval farming: patience, observation, and harmony with nature. These vegetables were part of a system that valued sustainability over immediate gain, nutrition over aesthetics, and ecological balance over monoculture efficiency. Modern agriculture, focused on speed, uniformity, and market appeal, has largely forgotten these lessons. By studying and reintroducing underground vegetables from the medieval era, contemporary farming can regain resilience, improve soil health, and diversify diets. These plants demonstrate that survival, productivity, and ecological stewardship are not mutually exclusive, they can coexist naturally. In revisiting these forgotten crops, we rediscover a pathway to sustainable, adaptive, and nourishing agriculture. One rooted in the wisdom of generations who understood that true abundance comes not from control, but from collaboration with the land. Along the windswept coasts of medieval Europe, where salt spray and sandy soils challenged even the hardiest plants, sea kale flourished. This remarkable vegetable demonstrated a resilience that few other crops could match. Its thick, tender shoots pushed up through infertile, saline soil, providing nourishment in regions where conventional vegetables struggled to survive. Coastal communities relied on sea kale, not only as a food source but also as a stabilizing element within the ecosystem. Its deep roots preventing erosion and maintaining soil structure against the relentless wind and tide. The adaptability of sea kale reflects the medieval understanding of environmental constraints and opportunities. Farmers recognized which plants could thrive where. and they cultivated these vegetables with care, aligning agricultural practices with the natural strengths of the land. Unlike modern approaches that often attempt to reshape the environment to suit a chosen crop, medieval cultivation worked with the conditions at hand. Sea kale's tolerance to salt, drought, and nutrient-poor soils exemplified this principle, offering a model of resilience that resonates with today's challenges in the face of climate change. Nutritionally, sea kale was highly valued. Its shoots were rich in vitamins and minerals, providing essential nutrients to populated access to diverse foods. It could be boiled, steamed, or added to pottages and soups, blending seamlessly with other vegetables like parsnips or turnips. The culinary flexibility of sea kale made it an indispensable part of coastal diets, while its hardiness ensured that it could withstand periods of scarcity or adverse weather. The ecological benefits of sea kale extended beyond human consumption. Its perennial growth stabilized dunes and coastal soils, offering a living barrier against erosion. Its deep roots aerated compacted sand, improved water retention, and supported a host of microorganisms, creating a micro-ecosystem that fostered additional plant growth. In this way, sea kale acted as both a food source and an environmental engineer, demonstrating a dual role that modern agriculture increasingly seeks to replicate through complex and energy-intensive methods. Medieval farmers also understood the significance of timing in cultivating sea kale. The shoots emerged at precise intervals, coordinated with seasonal patterns of rainfall, temperature, and coastal winds. Harvesting was done carefully to allow continuous regrowth, ensuring that the plant could provide sustenance over extended periods. This slow, attentive approach minimized waste and maximized yield, contrasting sharply with modern industrial practices that prioritize rapid harvesting and mechanization. Culturally, sea kale held importance beyond its nutritional value. Its presence along the coast was a testament to the ingenuity and adaptability of medieval communities, reflecting an intimate knowledge of their environment. Families passed down cultivation techniques and culinary methods, embedding sea kale within local traditions and diets. Its survival and continued growth were both a practical and symbolic reminder of human resilience in harmony with nature. The lessons of sea kale extend to contemporary challenges. Rising soil salinity, co-climate unpredictability threaten modern agriculture, making resilient crops more crucial than ever. By reintroducing or studying plants like sea kale, we can rediscover natural solutions to these pressing issues. Its ability to thrive in extreme conditions provides insights into sustainable cultivation, soil management, and ecosystem restoration. In examining sea kale and similar coastal vegetables, we see a broader philosophy of medieval agriculture, one that values adaptability, patience, and ecological intelligence. These plants were selected for survival and utility, not aesthetics or immediate profit. They remind us that true resilience emerges from working with the land, understanding environmental constraints, and cultivating diversity, rather than uniformity. The endurance of sea kale, like other forgotten medieval vegetables, underscores the deep interconnection between people and the environment. It illustrates how thoughtful cultivation practices, rooted in observation and experience, can create food systems that are both productive and sustainable. As we face modern agricultural challenges, revisiting these lost crops offers not only nutritional benefits, but also a blueprint for restoring balance between cultivation, ecology, and human sustenance. Cabbages, long a staple of medieval gardens, exemplified the balance between resilience and nutrition that characterized many forgotten vegetables. These plants were remarkably adaptable, thriving in a range of soils, from fertile loams to heavier, more challenging clays. Unlike the uniform, market-oriented cabbages of modern agriculture, medieval varieties varied in shape, size, and texture. Some produced tightly packed heads capable of withstanding cold winter months, while others grew loose, leafy forms that emerged quickly in the spring. families selected seeds carefully, ensuring that only the most robust and suitable plants were propagated, creating a slow, deliberate adaptation to local environmental conditions. The nutritional value of cabbages and other hardy greens cannot be overstated. Rich in vitamins, minerals, and fiber, these vegetables provided essential sustenance during the lean periods of winter, when other crops were scarce. They were versatile in preparation, incorporated into stews, soups and pottages, often paired with root vegetables such as parsnips, salsify, or turnips. Their flavors, subtle yet nourishing, contributed to a diet that was varied, balanced, and closely aligned with the seasons. From an ecological perspective, cabbages and hardy greens played a vital role in soil maintenance and garden health. Their broad leaves provided ground cover, reducing evaporation, preventing erosion, and root systems penetrated and aerated the soil, promoting microbial activity and nutrient cycling. When these plants were harvested, remaining roots or plant matter decomposed naturally, enriching the soil for subsequent crops. Crop rotation often paired these greens with legumes or other nitrogen-fixing plants, maintaining fertility without chemical intervention and sustaining a long-term productive ecosystem. The resilience of these vegetables was mirrored in the careful attention paid to seasonal cycles. Plant-in schedules accounted for frost, rainfall, and sunlight. Harvesting was timed to maximize yield without compromising regrowth or soil stability. These practices ensured that families had a reliable supply of nutritious greens year-round. In periods of scarcity or environmental stress, hardy greens provided a dependable fallback, reducing the risk of famine and supporting community survival. Cultural and medicinal significance further elevated the value of cabbages and other leafy vegetables. Many were believed to aid digestion, strengthen the body, or prevent illness. They were central to household knowledge, woven into recipes, remedies, and traditions. These plants were more than food, they were instruments of health, markers of seasonal cycles, and reflections of human interaction with the natural world. Medieval gardeners also recognized the importance of diversity within these crops. Multiple varieties of cabbages and greens were cultivated simultaneously to ensure a spread of harvest times and resilience to pests, disease, and unpredictable weather. This approach minimized risk and maintained stability in a world without refrigeration, chemical pest control, or modern preservation techniques. Each plant, no matter how imperfect in appearance, contributed to a robust, adaptive system. Through cabbages and hardy greens, we observe a philosophy of agriculture centered on observation, patience, and respect for ecological processes. Plants were not manipulated solely for speed or aesthetics. They were nurtured for endurance, nutrition, and their capacity to harmonize with the soil and climate. This perspective stands in contrast to contemporary monoculture systems, which often prioritize uniformity, yield, and marketability over resilience and ecosystem health. The lessons embedded in these vegetables extend to modern farming challenges. As soil degradation, climate variability, and resource scarcity intensify, revisiting the cultivation of robust, ecologically attuned crops offers a pathway towards sustainable agriculture. Hardy greens like medieval cabbages demonstrate that long-term productivity and environmental stewardship can coexist, providing both nourishment and ecological balance. In embracing the wisdom of cabbages, leafy vegetables, and other hardy greens, we reconnect with a lost rhythm of farming. A rhythm that values diversity, observes natural cycles, and nurtures both the land and those who depend on it. This philosophy, once central to survival and prosperity, offers enduring guidance for cultivating resilience, sustainability, and harmony within our modern food systems. Medieval farmers also understood the value of intercropping. Legumes such as peas were planted alongside root vegetables to naturally replenish nitrogen in the soil. This reduced the need for additional fertilizers and strengthened the land for future crops. Meanwhile, leafy greens provided ground cover, protecting soil from erosion and retaining moisture. The careful placement of vegetables was guided by observation, experience, and the subtle interactions of plants with each other and the environment. Seasonal rhythms dictated planting and harvest. Root vegetables were sown to maximize the growing season and withstand unpredictable weather. Harsh winters, droughts, and unseasonable rains were accepted as part of the natural order. Crops were chosen for reliability and resilience, rather than aesthetics or market appeal. The lessons embedded in these choices highlight the adaptability and ecological intelligence inherent in medieval agriculture. Parsnips and their companions were more than sources of calories, they carried cultural and medicinal significance. Many root vegetables were believed to aid digestion, restore energy, or provide warmth during cold months. Their flavors, textures, and nutritional content influenced diets, traditions, and communal practices. These plants were interwoven with daily life, reinforcing connections between humans, the earth, and the broader ecosystem. The endurance of root vegetables like parsnips, salsify, skirret, and turnips reminds us of the wisdom lost in the transition to industrial agriculture. Modern preferences for uniformity, speed, and convenience have overshadowed crops valued for their resilience, ecological benefits, and nutritional depth. Rediscovering and reintegrating these vegetables into contemporary farming could restore not only biodiversity, but also soil health, food security, and a deeper understanding of the interdependence between people and the land. Through the lens of parsnips and other root vegetables, we see a microcosm of medieval agricultural philosophy, a slow, patient, and observant approach that harmonized human needs with ecological cycles. These plants, carefully nurtured and selected over generations, demonstrate that sustainability and resilience were never accidental, they were cultivated intentionally. Their lessons, if remembered and applied today, offer a pathway toward farming systems that respect natural rhythms, promote ecological balance, and nourish both body and soil for generations to come.